Station Restaurant in Minnesota. Visit thetiltedtiki.com. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations, exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, clear with a low of 60, then a chance of showers and storms on Wednesday with a high of 88. The Great Wall Restaurant has been serving up Mandarin and Sichuan favorites for almost 45 years. The Great Wall Restaurant is located on France Avenue on the Minneapolis-Edina City line, just a few blocks north of 50th Street. View their menu or place a takeout order at greatwallrestaurant.us. Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story. This is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining me on this Tuesday evening as we are making our way into much warmer weather in June. And boy, am I glad we turned on the air conditioner over here. That's all I'm going to say. It's a warm one today, but it's a good one as well. It's beautiful sunny weather out here, and you know, me who seems to have no color whatsoever, I need to step outside once in a while and maybe even kind of feel what the sun feels like again. My gosh, I just haven't been out there in a while. I just wanted to first of all introduce our guest tonight. We've had Joe Franke on a number of times, and I love having him on the program. I work with him even though we haven't done a whole lot lately through the I haven't, at least, the Warren Legacy Foundation, which we could talk about tonight as well. But Joe has been part of paranormal for most of his life now. He has been doing a lot of work with helping people with spirits that they are having problems with, or try to consult on situations. Also, something that we talk about on quite a bit is that he also was mentored by Ed and Lorraine Warren, and they were able to kind of show him the path to the work that he does today. Joe, welcome to GhostBox Radio.
Thank you, Greg. It's always a pleasure to be with you. It's great.
Well, and I got to warn people right before the show. We had been talking for a little while, catching up and stuff, and I'm not convinced that we're done talking about food, because that's what we had been really talking about prior.
I love food.
I love food too, and we were. I don't know. Were we playing a game of who can make the other person hungrier? Because it just seemed like that we're kind of volleying back and forth with, in Connecticut we have this. Oh, in Minneapolis we have this, and they all sound pretty amazing, quite frankly. So I don't know.
We didn't even start talking about pizza.
Oh my gosh. Well, and yeah, okay, yeah, we're not even going to go there.
New Haven, Connecticut style pizza.
Now, okay. Now, is the Connecticut style pizza, is that the one that is there a version that has like the more like seafood on it? It's not even seafood; it's clams, isn't it? Or is that something different?
Well, no, you're right. There's a
Okay.
couple of famous pizzerias right in New Haven, Connecticut, right down the highway from where I live. One is Pepe's and one is
Yes,
Sally's.
I know both.
Pepe's, I think they're famous for their white clam pizza,
Yep.
and I had it many years ago. It's delicious. The thing is, it's standing room only if you try to get into the place, And then Sally's, and then there's a place called Modern Pizza, which is excellent as well. And oh God, actually, an old high school buddy of mine started a pizza making class, and he's very successful at it. I think he only just started a couple of years ago, and he bakes. He makes everything from scratch, and the dough and everything. And I'm sitting there salivating, watching on Facebook and stuff like that.
Oh gosh.
I tease him about food. He teases me about ghosts. I said, you know what? Why don't we have something called the ghost pizza? Something like that.
I'm afraid that, I mean, to me right away, I'm wondering, is that ghost peppers in there and stuff? And I like heat, but not a whole lot, Joe. So when you're devising this, please keep that in mind for me, would you please? I'd appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's interesting, the correlation here. You're talking about the places that you can't get into over there, or it's harder now. And I have to admit, I have to assume that the fact of these TV shows getting to them and giving them the exposure gets people like me who are going to maybe be out in the area or something, want to try it out. It's kind of making it maybe a little bit harder for the locals to get in. And I can't help but find the correlation between that and the TV shows that have gone to haunted locations now, and the environment that I think, and this is just me talking, it's not Joe talking, I think that has kind of, some areas have helped and other areas have sullied. And I just, it's just an interesting correlation. And I don't want to be on the bandwagon of like all TV is bad. But at the same time, it's kind of like, gosh, I mean, what is the price of fame? And especially when it comes to paranormal, because, you get some great people out of it. But at the same time, it just seems like that, and we were talking about this a little before going on the air, I always wonder, do people realize that paranormal investigating, originally at least, generally at least, is about helping other people?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it should be about. Back when I started almost 40 years ago, right out of high school, I met, I met the Warrens at one of their lectures, and Lorraine actually was reading my aura and said, honey, she goes, I can tell by your aura, you were meant to do this work. Would you like to come and work with us? And I absolutely, without skipping a beat, I'm like, yes. And basically, they took me into their family. I mean, took me under their wing. And my training at first was sitting in classes, and the classroom size was maybe about 6 of us. I don't think there's, I haven't been in contact with people, but I don't think there's anyone from those classes left. I don't know where they are today, if they're still in the work or not, but I've stayed in it. But back then it was all about helping people with their experiences. Now, we didn't have the internet back then. We didn't have social media, obviously. So things have exploded over the last 20 years or so. But if someone contacted us, we try to get them to understand what's going on with them. So, I'd say, okay, well, what's happening? Tell me what's happening. And sometimes it'd be over the phone. Sometimes I'd just go sit in their kitchen and have coffee with them and say, okay, well, what's going on? I wouldn't show up in the mystery machine with, tons of equipment, but you'd go in and talk to them first and take notes or record the session or whatever. And say, okay, well, what's happening? And then more importantly, now we got to find out why this is happening. So do you actually have a paranormal affliction, or is it something else? And with the onset of all the TV shows, especially today, one of the first questions I ask people is, how many of these TV shows do you watch, or how many of these movies do you go to? And most people, surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, I should say, would say, oh, we watch all of them. We love them. I love this show. I love that show. And I'm like, well, if you think you have an issue, stop watching these shows. I mean, most people are not going to because they love them so much.
Yep.
But now you're creating this in your mind. It's psychosomatic almost. And I'll still help them and take a look around or whatever, but almost inevitably, I'll spend an evening or two, in some cases I've spent 3.5 years on cases, and either nothing happens or eventually I will get some evidence that can't be explained naturally. And I say, always look for a natural explanation. If you're hearing scratching noises or rumblings up in the attic or something, we have had cases where people have had squirrels in their attic, or they'll have it be a rodent, or there's some kind of natural explanation. Maybe a tree's rubbing against a siding or something, but you watch these TV shows and now you're manifesting in your own mind an issue or a problem that's not really there. And I'm not saying these people are lying or making it up. In their mind, it's very real. So it's my job to kind of, talk them back off the ledge and say, okay, let's think about this for a second.
Well,
what's going on? Okay, well, what have you been into? Have you used any kind of forms of divination, like the Ouija board, which seems to be one of the most popular instruments out there, and it's very dangerous. People need to understand that. And maybe people won't agree with me. People that use them regularly. There are some religions like Wiccan that use Ouija boards as part of their rituals. They call them spirit boards or talking boards. Same thing.
Yeah.
But that, I was born and raised Roman Catholic, and the Warrens were very Roman Catholic, so I learned in the Roman Catholic way. And I always tell people, when I'm talking to an audience, I say, look, full disclaimer, this is the approach I'm going to be coming from. If you don't agree with it or you have a different belief, that's fine. We can still be friends. But this is how I learned, And, when you're using forms of divination, which is basically the practice of seeking knowledge of your future or the future through supernatural means, it's like, using a Ouija board, say, give me the next 6 Powerball numbers for the next drawing or something like that. It doesn't work that way, but that's a way to open doors to things that aren't so pleasant. When you have, I don't want to jump to just evil stuff, but when you're dealing with something evil or demonic, demonic is very bad, but it's very rare. It has to be invited in, there has to be an invitation, and it has to be of your own free will. So I've had people come up to me and say, I'm not going to have an attachment because I came to listen to your lecture tonight. I'm like, no, I said, but I wouldn't tempt fate and use these things. Like, don't have seances or Ouija boards, tarot cards, things like that can be dangerous. Now, that's not to say that if you've ever used them, you're going to have a problem. It's all in the intention and in it. But, I've talked to a lot of Roman Catholic priests that are exorcists. Some of them are very well known, like Father Gary Thomas, San Francisco area, Father Carlos Martins, I think he's in the Detroit area. These guys are actually exorcists that were trained and trained at the Vatican or whatever, and they talk about that as well, how dangerous it is to use these things. I mean, go buy Monopoly or something. Don't play with.
Well, but I think the thing too that should be very clear as well is I think any kind of paranormal device, if you've not used it before, if you are somebody who's not ever had any kind of even watch it, your only experience is watching it from a TV show, that alone should be enough to be like, don't do it. Steer clear. At least get someone to help you so that you can maybe. And I'm not saying for Ouija boards per se, but like Spirit Box or anything else. Don't just attempt it yourself, Yeah,
I mean, we all see on television or the internet, these people going into old abandoned buildings or schools or insane asylums or hospitals. And I was joking before the show about, they'll capture within the first 5 minutes more evidence than I'll capture in a year, and whether it's real or not, is up to the viewer, but I don't buy it. It doesn't happen that way.
Right.
I was fortunate to have met the Warrens when I was a teenager and invited by them and taken under their wing. Unfortunately, my mentors are gone now, and all I'm trying to do is pass along that knowledge to the next generation, because I'm not going to be around forever. You know, my friend John Zaffis, who people may very well know, John's their nephew. He was Ed's nephew, the son of Ed's twin sister. I don't know if people knew that. Ed had a twin sister. And of course, Chris, their biological grandson. I was their adopted grandson. They love me better.
Yep, absolutely.
Chris will tell you that. So I was fortunate. I get a lot of questions about how do I get involved in this? If they're wondering what I get involved in, I said, well, make sure you really want to get involved in this kind of work. I said, it all depends on what you're trying to get out of it. Are you a thrill seeker, urban explorer kind of thing, or do you really want to devote your life to helping people? You know, for me, this was a vocation. It's not an occupation. I don't get paid for this.
No.
You know, where I make any money off of it is through lecturing. You know, if I'm doing lecturing or things like that. And eventually I'm working on a book of my life experiences. It's taken me a while to get it done, but
it's a long life. It's a long life. Of course, it's going to take a long time.
You know, and I didn't jump in.
You're old.
I know I'm old. I'm so old. My insurance company sent me half a calendar.
It's gonna be more. It's gonna be more of like a Bible size than a regular book. So much in there.
Well, I mean, you know, I want to tell my story as it really happened. I had what I would call a divine experience when I was 3 years old. I could tell you quickly. I was named after my maternal grandfather, and my grandfather was very proud of that, and he loved me. And I don't know if I was his favorite, but he used to love to come over. He'd pick me up sometimes and take me to church. I remember vaguely, and again, I was about 3 years old at the time. Well, one night, it was a Monday night, I remember my mother telling the story, and I actually asked her to send it to me in an email about 10 years ago, because I said, Mom, someday you're not going to be here anymore. And unfortunately, I lost her about 3 years ago, but I have the email still. And my mother tells a story that my parents were in the living room watching television, watching Monday Night Football. And I came out of the room, my eyes were closed, and I said, Mommy, what? You know, someone called Joseph. Somebody called me. And my parents looked at each other and said, I was just having a dream, you know. So she puts me back into bed. A couple minutes later, come out the same thing. You know, I don't recall any of this. I was asleep. But what I do recall is seeing a bright light and hearing a male voice saying, Joseph, come with me. It's time. I remember that like it was, you know, 5 minutes ago. So my mother puts me back to bed for the second time, and the phone rings, and it was my grandmother. And she said, I can't wake up your father. Now, my grandfather I swear he's a saint today. My grandfather had a ritual where he would read passages from the Bible before he went to bed every night. And he had an easy chair in the bedroom. So I guess my grandmother went up, and my grandfather they think what happened is he fell asleep with the Bible on his lap and had a heart attack. Or maybe he had the heart attack and whatever, not sure, but she couldn't wake him up. He had passed away at that point. Again, and this was 1971. I was three and a half years old at the time. And I feel, and I'm convinced that was what I call a divine experience, because I feel I heard God calling him, because I had such a close connection to him, you know, and no one could convince me otherwise. But I always try to tell that story, because that was something that I experienced at a very young age. And then you fast forward 15 years to when I was 18. I remember I just graduated high school, and in like June, and then September, I remember the Warrens were giving a lecture down the road, down the highway, at a Holiday Inn. They used to rent a room, and then they would sell tickets, $10, $15, whatever it was. And that's where I met them. And Lorraine, I remember looking at me for the first time. She's like, honey, have we met before? And she was such a sweetie. She called everybody honey. You know, and I said, no, Lorraine, I've heard a lot about you and Ed. I've seen you on television and heard you on the radio, things like that. She's looking at me now. I didn't know what she was doing at the time. She explained it later, but she said, there's a reason why you're here tonight. She goes, make sure you come and see Ed and I after the show. So I was really excited. I'm like, oh, God, what do they want to talk to me about? No. So we ended up going out to a diner afterwards, and this is where the food comes in.
I'm happy to hear we get food in this story.
One of the rituals the Warrens used to do is every time after a lecture or a case, we would always find a diner somewhere, and so we could, get something to eat, obviously, but discuss the case or how the lecture went. So we're sitting there, and Lorraine's sitting across from me, and my girlfriend, who is now my wife of 32 years, was sitting next to me and Ed, and she's holding my hand, and she's looking. She goes, "I'm reading your aura." Lorraine had the ability to read auras, that supernatural glow that emanates from all of us.
Yep. And
she could tell by the aura and the colors and the brightness. She said that she goes, "I could tell that you were meant to do this work. Would you like to come and work with us?" And I said, absolutely. So my training started out with these classes where Ed would bring in his notes and his tape recorders and some video stuff from Amityville. Right, some of the more arcanic cases, the Enfield Poltergeist, which is The Conjuring 2, the Harrisville Haunting, which was the original Conjuring movie. So I know the stories directly from them of what really happened in these cases, not what Hollywood's version.
No. And we actually had you on to talk a little bit about Amityville a few months ago. What I'm going to do, though, right now, because we need to get in a break here. So let's go ahead. Just take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Joe Franke. And if you have any questions, put it into the comments. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950.
Need a stone to change your luck or break a curse? Try larvikite, known for its hex-breaking powers. Need an herb to repel negative spirits? Try rue, used to repel demons and jinn. Want to create a decoy so black magic can't touch you? Make a witch bottle. For more magical advice, visit Magus Books in Minneapolis. We've got the tools and the expert advice you need to succeed against the dark arts. Find us at 1848 Central Avenue Northeast in Minneapolis or at magusbooks.com.
Reach your highest level of consciousness and well-being with metamorphosisconnections.com. Metamorphosisconnections.com is an online directory of the best holistic and metaphysical practitioners to help you make your most informed choices. You can search metamorphosisconnections.com for classes, events, wellness and life coaches, plus metaphysical products and shops. You can also search for a wide array of healers from all modalities, including EFT, sound healing, energy healing, light therapy, ancestral healing, shamanic healing, reflexology, past life regressions, hypnotherapy, yoga, and more. And if you're not sure where to start, the search feature on metamorphosisconnections.com is tailored to help both those who know what they are looking for and those who are just starting. Come explore the possibilities for your higher self by visiting metamorphosisconnections.com. Their experienced practitioners can guide both beginners and those that are already on their spiritual journey. That's metamorphosisconnection.com, your link to direct you on your spiritual transformation.
The Tilted Tiki, located in downtown Stillwater, helps you get your tropical tiki vibe on with a large selection of fantastic tasting tiki cocktails served in unique and fun glasses, a menu of delicious food ranging from small bites, craft tacos, sandwiches, and more. Plus, don't forget they have live music Wednesday through Saturday nights. Located in downtown Stillwater, the Tilted Tiki is your tropical relaxation restaurant in Minnesota. Visit thetiltedtiki.com. Greg Bakun here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
And welcome back to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. My name is Greg Bakun. I just wanted to let people know that I do a Patreon, patreon.com /GhostBox Radio. And we put up old episodes of GhostBox Radio, including stuff from before AM 950, the stuff when I was at KCOR Radio or Live Paranormal and Para X Radio. And we just put up an episode today that's not going to air until next week. So we put up a lot of early releases. We're going to do 3 of those this month that are eventually going to get onto AM 950, on Get Haunted, on the Parallax, all those places. But they're available now. Once again, patreon.com /GhostBox Radio. Patreon starts as low as $3 a month to join. And the money that is made from it goes to stuff like buying the books of the authors that we are interviewing and just upgrading of equipment for the show and stuff. Always really appreciate anyone who puts the money in for it and supports us. And for those who are not taking part in Patreon but support us, thank you very much. It still means a great deal. Everybody who is listening, taking part, being present for the program, really appreciate it. Tonight, I have on Joe Franke, who is paranormal investigator. We've been talking about Ben and Lorraine Warren, who were mentors to Joe. But I'll tell you what's kind of really come through, Joe, is the whole pizza conversation. And, John,
much more interesting.
well, I mean, John Marson is kind of a pizza guru in the Minnesota, Wisconsin area. So he's like, don't get me going about pizza. And then my friend Robert texted me that he said those pizza places Joe mentioned are the ones in that documentary I showed you, very famous and hard to get into. So, yeah, I mean, should we just talk about pizza for the rest of the show? Or
I'm game.
What I do want to talk about is the Warren Legacy Foundation. Annette's on here, and Annette wrote in there, let's see here. I hope what I'm going through that y'all can help. And to me, I don't know what Annette's going through, but I do think to myself, if it's something to do that maybe the Warren Legacy Foundation can help with, maybe we could just talk about that. So maybe it kind of sends her in a direction that she might be able to get the help that she needs.
Well, absolutely. That's what we're here for. Warren Legacy Foundation basically is exactly what the title says, is we're carrying on the legacy of Ed and Lorraine Warren. It was started by Lorraine and Chris, her grandson, back in, I think, 2014. Mm-hmm. And, of course, I was a big part of that. So we set it up. We set up a structure where I'm the chairman of the board. We have a board structure. But I'm just kind of a figurehead. Chris actually lives abroad. He lives in Paraguay or Colombia now. He's moving to Paraguay. But we talk all the time. But yeah, if anyone that needs help, you could go to our website and there's a form you can fill out. We have regional directors and managers all over the world, really. I mean, the United States, we're covered. And we've got people in other countries. We've got people in New Zealand, Australia, Germany, the UK, and we're growing, so if you would like to join, there's an application process, but if you need help and you think you're experiencing something that is paranormal in nature, and even if it's not, it's okay, we can help you figure that out. Fill out the form, and that'll get to the regional director of your area. Not sure if it's in your area, Greg. I think it was Jeff. I think Kim
it was Jeff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kim took over there. But I am always available to the regional directors if they need my help. I'm in Connecticut, but anybody who needs my help anywhere, they can always call me. I sit in on interviews, client interviews, and give them the best advice I can. If you can't find somebody locally that can help you, please, send us a message, and we can do that for you. We can try to find someone in your area that could help you. So it would be WarrenLegacyFoundation.com, I believe it is. I'm sorry,
it is. Nope, I have it on screen.
I should know. Media. But yeah, please, if you need help, and then someone will get back to you pretty much right away. They're on the ball, because we know people. Some people live with things for many years, and they're afraid to say something, or maybe they've called in a group and the group says we're in over our head, we don't know what to do. I certainly don't have all the answers, but we put our heads together as an organization, and we've been very successful in helping people, with their afflictions.
And so Annette's like, I see things, I hear things. And so Annette, what you need to do is you need to go, and I put it into the comments as well, the website address, the Warren Legacy Foundation. And it's a simple form, because that's just how to make sure everything stays organized on our end, that you fill it out, that you put in there, and as Joe said, someone can get back to you and start talking with you about stuff. And one of the things that is kind of put into our minds when we're because I'm part of the Warren Legacy Foundation as well. One of the things that is really put into our consciousness doing this is that if we find that something is not paranormal in nature, we're not done with that person yet. That we try to help that person beyond paranormal. It's not like, no, it doesn't seem paranormal to me, you're on your own. It's trying to help somebody so that they are trying, because people get lost. They need help. And it doesn't always mean it's paranormal, and it's our obligation, it's our duty to continue that help, so that that person isn't just suddenly once again left stranded with nowhere to go, no way, nothing to help them. And that's our purpose, is to help.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, we're a diverse group of folks. I mean, not everyone that's in the foundation is an actual researcher.
Yeah.
I like to say researcher instead of investigator. Pretty much the same thing, but we do research. We don't just show up. All right, we'll be there. Saturday night with all our equipment. We don't work like that. We work with our clients, and we have an initial intake questionnaire. And obviously, with me, one question may lead to 10 more. But I need to learn about you, your family, your house, the land. There's a lot of things to look into. Has there been any witchcraft, black magic performed, any forms of divination, Ouija boards, seances, things like that. But even before you get to all that, you want to understand what the problem is. Okay, what's happening, and then why is it happening? That's where your research comes in, and we've got such a diverse group of people made up of doctors, nurses, lawyers, professional people that volunteer. We're all volunteers. We don't charge a thing to help people, and we never will. We survive on donations, or if we put on events or something, we try to put some money in the kitty, because if someone's got to travel, sometimes we may ask people that can you cover our expenses? And if I got to fly to Oklahoma, but if they say I don't have the money, I'm not going to say I'm not coming. Yeah. If I need to be there, it comes out of my pocket. Oh, well, that's what you signed up for. So I won't say that too loud in case my wife hears me.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, if you need help in that, please, that's what our organization is here for. And
right.
We will do the best we can to help you understand what may be happening.
And Annette, I appreciate that, because Annette keeps putting in what's happening in the comments, and I really appreciate that. But just know, this isn't going to be where we can help you diagnose what that is. I really strongly suggest go to the website, warrenlegacyfoundation.com, put in and get the help, because there's going to be people who are going to know exactly how to approach what you're going through and ask the questions. And I don't want to speak for Joe, but at the moment, him or myself are not the right people for that. So, and I say that only because there's going to be a lot that you're going to get a very full question. They're going to really try to help you and get to the bottom of what's going on with you. Mm-hmm. So just know that. I just think, and we have a few minutes before our next break, what you're talking about, bringing in the equipment and doing the investigation and stuff. And I think I'm going to be lambasted for saying this, but I think we have moved when we're doing private investigations or helping people on a private level.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that we have moved on from equipment, just bringing in equipment and for the sake of capturing any sort of things that any spirit in the room is going to say. I think we come from a place that we're not looking to see whether or not spirits exist or not. We're coming from a place of, we know you're there. What's going on with them? What's going on with the people that need our help? How can we kind of negotiate between the two? It's no longer like, oh, let's just see what's in there. It's like we're beyond that now. My God, did I make you quiet? I mean, I'm in shock, actually.
Who, me?
Yeah, you didn't even respond. I just
no, I was listening to you. You're making a good point.
I'm just
I'm sorry.
God, are you okay?
I was just reading the comments as you were talking. I'm sorry. I was trying to read some of the comments here. I'd like to know. Tonight isn't the night to do it, but I'd like to know what's going on with Annette. She seems to be pretty scared.
Yeah, and that's why I really suggest that she helps in that area in terms of, because I mean, sometimes you have to kind of do the work to reach out for the help, especially, and I'm not saying this is a demonic case or anything like that, but I also know that when it comes to like any sort of help that someone asks, so they have to often be the ones that ask for the help themselves, and show that they use and stuff. I think the question you're probably looking at here, which I don't really know I understand completely, and that asked, does he know of the investigations the Warrens did? Which, yes.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, a lot of them. I wasn't involved in every one of them, but I was involved in quite a few of them. With them and on my own. Ed would send me on cases with another investigator from time to time. But I got to tell you, it was probably a good 2 to 3 years before I went out on my own.
Right.
He didn't just say, first day, here you go, kid, here's an address, go take care of this. But I recall one case in Connecticut where we were actually at a lecture that the Warrens were doing, and I was there with them, helping them. I also helped with security to make sure people didn't, cause any trouble or heckle them or whatever. And I remember Ed got a phone call, and he called me over, and he says, I need you to go to this address right now. And he goes, take Brian. I'm not sure who it was, Brian or something. He said, take Brian with you. You never want to go alone. Mm-hmm. And I literally I found the address. It was a condo. And I knocked on the door, and they opened the door like a couple inches. I said, I'm Joe Franke. Ed Warren sent me. The door flies open. The family grabs me, and they pull me in, and they're like hugging me. They're like, thank God you're here. We're terrified. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I was overwhelmed, and I'm looking around, and the kitchen's over to my right, the kitchen dining area, and the left is a living room. And I noticed everything these people owned, bedding, clothes, everything was in the living room. Okay. Wow. So in other words, the family was so scared they wouldn't go anywhere else in the house or condo alone. So all the bedrooms, I think there was 2 or 3 bedrooms. It was almost probably 30 something years ago, but everything they owned was in the living room. So the bedrooms were empty, except for a couple of rogue Legos that I stepped on. And if everybody's ever stepped on a Lego, you know how that feels. But in all seriousness, they would have activity, like they would see these dark shadows, like almost like if you've heard of the Hat Man, mm-hmm. Or shadow people. But they described it as being almost as tall as the ceiling. So your standard ceiling is like 8 feet, right? So they said it had to be 7 to 8 feet tall, and they would float down the hallway. And sometimes it'd be 2, sometimes it'd be 3 of them. And I'm amazed by this because at that point in my life, I hadn't seen anything like this. And I'm looking at these people's faces, and they're not making this up. I mean, these people were absolutely scared and terrified. And so I went in the back bedroom, and they said that's where the epicenter was. That's where they would come from, this area near the closet or whatever. And, at that point, I'm like, I'm saying to myself, I got to see this. I got to see this. And so obviously I went there, I set up my video camera and everything, trained it on the closet area where they said they see these things. And then they were telling me about if someone had to go to the bathroom, they would leave the door ajar, and the person that was in doing their business would have their hand sticking out the door, and someone would be in the hallway holding their hand. Mm-hmm. And he said they would, from time to time, someone would, if they were isolated, and that's the thing, when you're dealing with negative spirits, I'm not saying demons because that's not always the case, but they like to isolate you. So, and they found that out the hard way. So they would say, usually things would be calmer when they were together. So, but they said they would see these things come floating down the hallway, and they had a bassinet because they had a baby. And they said one of them came and it almost like it looked down into the bassinet. And they said they scooped up the baby and ran out of there. And so these people are just absolutely terrified. I'm trying to remember the facts of the case, but Bishop McKenna, God rest his soul, came and did an exorcism. I was over there it was a Saturday night, and I think Monday or Tuesday the bishop was there, and he did a cleansing, or exorcisms are usually on people, but for lack of a better term. And the people left, they moved. They weren't staying regardless of whether the exorcism was successful or not. But that was kind of one of my first cases where I experienced the terror. I didn't see anything myself when I was there. And I think I spent the whole night there with them. But they were very grateful, because I remember one of them saying something to the fact that, Joe, I haven't slept this well in weeks, because they just the knowledge that somebody was there. There was two of us there. And, if these things came floating down the hall, what am I going to do? Right. I had no idea, but I was there to document it.
Yep.
And the Warrens taught me that you need to document as much as you can, because if we need to bring this to the church, they're going to need overwhelming evidence. Not just call the church, say, hey, can you send Father Joe down here and do an exorcism? It doesn't work that way. You got to come to the church with a lot overwhelming evidence, and then they have to get the bishop's blessing, and sometimes the bishop would send a priest or two to investigate. And the Warrens had a lot of relationships with priests, and I remember Bishop McKenna and Malachi Martin, Father Martin. And so that's how I really got involved with cases like this. Then they weren't all like this.
No,
these were rare.
No, absolutely. I'm going to break in real fast. We got to take another break here. These are amazing stories. I just need to fit in one more break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Joe Franke. Anyone has any questions, put into the comments, and we'll finish up the show with some more great stories. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950.
Are you one of thousands of individuals who know you have psychic abilities but don't know how to tap into your higher self? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who offers classes that can help you reach your goals. Refined Divine holds classes Monday and Thursday at her 2 locations and via Zoom. Classes consist of manifestation, learning psychic abilities, shadow work, and healing trauma. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
This is Psychic Medium Deb. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Did you know that spiritual awakening is not all love and light? Surprise! Inner demons, ego deaths, and tower moments are on the horizon. But while life might hand you some harsh lessons, we've got the antidote to soothe your weary soul. Why not try a dragon's blood bath? Or schedule a Reiki aura repair? With books, herbs, talismans, candles, and more, we put the Shazam in shadow work. Visit Magus Books at 1848 Central Avenue Northeast in Minneapolis or magusbooks.com.
The Tilted Tiki, located in downtown Stillwater, helps you get your tropical tiki vibe on with a large selection of fantastic tasting tiki cocktails served in unique and fun glasses, a menu of delicious food ranging from small bites, craft tacos, sandwiches, and more. Plus, don't forget they have live music Wednesday through Saturday nights. Located in downtown Stillwater, the Tilted Tiki is your tropical relaxation restaurant in Minnesota. Visit thetiltedtiki.com.
Reach your highest level of consciousness and well-being with metamorphosisconnections.com. Metamorphosisconnections.com is an online directory of the best holistic and metaphysical practitioners to help you make your most informed choices. You can search metamorphosisconnections.com for classes, events, wellness and life coaches, plus metaphysical products and shops. You can also search for a wide array of healers from all modalities, including EFT, sound healing, energy healing, light therapy, ancestral healing, shamanic healing, reflexology, past life regressions, hypnotherapy, yoga, and more. And if you're not sure where to start, the search feature on metamorphosisconnections.com is tailored to help both those who know what they are looking for and those who are just starting. Come explore the possibilities for your higher self by visiting metamorphosisconnections.com. Their experienced practitioners can guide both beginners and those that are already on their spiritual journey. That's metamorphosisconnection.com, your link to direct you on your spiritual transformation.
And join me tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. We're going to have on our guest Liz Johnson from Magus Books. She's going to talk to us about potions, give us some great suggestions about using them. I've had some conversations with her about potions before. She is so knowledgeable. And if you've ever been to Magus Books down on Central Avenue, please go down there, first of all, and support what they're doing. They're a fantastic small business, but her ingredients are potions that takes up an entire wall of the store. It's fantastic. She's going to talk to us about it. And I think she's going to be able to give us some very smart advice about what potions can and cannot do. And I think that's very important when people are thinking about it, because I think people come in, and I don't know, this is just me saying it, I think people come in and like, I want so-and-so to fall in love with me, and it doesn't work that way. So we're going to be talking about that tomorrow. That's my last live show of the week on Thursday. We're going to replay an episode with Erica Lukes from Ancient Aliens. We're going to be talking about the UAP disclosure talks at Capitol Hill last year. And then Friday, we're going to rerun a Casual Friday from July. And we'll be back on Monday. We have with us Joe Franke. And Joe, I got to tell you, I just feel like I need to tell you this. We have about 7 minutes left. Okay.
Oh, have I been talking that much?
Well, I'm not here to point fingers. Okay. I'm not here to say who's doing what, who's talking about what clam pizza. All I'm saying is that we have about 7 minutes left. So
okay.
Do not take offense, and you never would anyway. I know this.
God, no.
If I cut you off, and it just means we'll have to have you on some other time.
Yeah, I got 40 years of stuff to talk about.
So yeah, well, no, and that's just it, and that's the amazing thing about it. I want to talk a little bit about. I mean, everything you do now is in the Warrens' name and stuff. What is it that do you see any real trends in terms of the type of cases that come your way that may be different, or is it the same as always?
Well, no, I see a difference only because of the difference in technology and the TV shows and the YouTube channels and things like that. Hollywood doesn't help. Chris and I talk about this. Chris McKinnell, their grandson. Chris and I talk about this all the time. I said, if Hollywood took a true story and just told the story the way it really happened, it's far more terrifying than making up stuff. But the stories are still the same. There's just more of them. And I think a lot of it, like I mentioned earlier, people manifest things in their mind. Yeah. Like, well, they watched the show where they were scratching and growling. Well, wait a minute. I think I hear that. So now I have a problem. And, I always tell people, never investigate your own house. We had a case, I don't even know if it's still going on, but somewhere in the States, and the regional director sent me a tape. The woman was walking around her home with a tape recorder, and she had her 5-year-old daughter in tow. Mm-hmm. And she's like, who are you? Why are you in my house? Things like that. And I'm like, yeah, you don't want to do that. And the little girl, you could hear her on the tape saying, "Mommy, who are you talking to?" Stuff like that.
Yeah.
That can be dangerous. One thing I forgot to mention earlier when I was telling the story about my grandfather, that Bible that he was reading when he passed away, I have in my kit. That Bible comes on every case with me. I don't always need it. I just always I'm always prepared, for whatever I'm going to get myself into. But one thing I'll say is your faith is your true weapon. I had a woman ask me the other day, I was talking to her on the phone, and she's like, should I go out and get some holy water and some crucifixes? And I said, well, unless you believe and have faith in what those objects stand for and symbolize, they're nothing but a couple of inanimate objects. I said, it's just regular water. I always coin a phrase from the movie Miracle on 34th Street, and that is, faith is believing in something that common sense tells you not to. Right. So when you think about that, it's very true. Your faith is your real weapon. I've been beat up. I've been punched, scratched, bitten, burned. I was 350 pounds on a case, and I was thrown across the room like I was nothing. Okay? I was terrified. People are like, well, weren't you scared? I'm like, I'm human. I'm a human being, a natural emotion. To be terrified, think about if something like that happened to you. Mm-hmm. Can you wrap your brain around that? I actually had somebody say to me one time, "Oh, I'd like to experience that." I'm like, "Are you nuts?"
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm like, you wouldn't want to experience that. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Demonic cases are very rare.
I think that comes back to what we were talking about before the show, in my opinion only, that when people say stuff like that, I don't think they really believe. I mean, yeah, maybe, that's just opinion. But it's just, to me, it's just like, if you respected the power of any sort of entity, spirit, or whatever, you're not going to be making claims like that. You're not going to say stuff like that.
Right. That's very true. People, I noticed in the comments in that, said she needs to see proof. A lot of people are like that. Yeah. A lot of people want to see something, they need to see it to believe it, and that's fine, I guess. But faith is in my definition is believing in something that that's not tangible. Do you believe in air? Well, yeah, we breathe it and it keeps us alive, but you can't see it. No, really. But maybe that's a bad analogy. But you got to believe in something, and just because you can't see it, touch it, hear it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But again, everybody's entitled to their opinion and their beliefs, and I respect that.
I guess I'm thinking too, is like, if I wouldn't mind seeing something perhaps, but what I don't want to be like lose control of my body because of some force. This, because I want to experience being, thrown across the room. I wouldn't want that. Who would want that?
Well, I mean, I was using at the time what we call religious provocation. Ed taught me that, and I remember him saying to me one day, he called me kid. He's like, kid. He goes, think about it like this. He goes, you take a stick, and there's a tiger in a cage, and you poke that tiger with the stick enough times, eventually it's going to take a swat at you.
Yeah.
So the same thing is if you're using religious provocation with holy water or prayers and things like that, and you're dealing with something negative or sinister, it's going to lash out. And this house, I remember, was very, very bad. And, did I really believe? Yeah. I mean, I guess I did, but I wanted to see for myself. Well, I found out.
Yeah.
I found out. And people are like, well, weren't you scared? I'm like, yeah, I was at the time. I was very scared. Yeah. Yeah. But I was more angry, I think, than scared. I got up and I think I said every name in the book, every bad word that I could think of. But there was a family. Now, the family wasn't there at the time, but there was a family with children that lived in that house, and they were absolutely terrified. They'd have all kinds of objects moving and electronics going off. The toaster, I remember the toaster, they said, caught fire, and it wasn't even plugged in. I mean, this is things that, the average person is thinking, I don't believe that. I have to see that. And I don't blame them, but, would you really want that happening in your house?
Yeah. If it happens once, it's going to happen again. If it has something to do with some sort of force, like they don't just leave. So if
they're invited in.
Oh yeah.
If you invite something in and it attaches itself to you, they're not going to let you alone. They want your soul.
No. As we're running out of time here, and folks, we always bring Joe back. So don't think if we don't get to all of his stories and stuff, we love having Joe on. He's going to be back on the program. I do want to quickly say, you talk about the films, for example, the Conjuring films. In my opinion, the scariest parts of the films are the end credits, because they are actually playing some of the real recordings from those real cases, and they far outweigh, I'm getting even chills now thinking of them, outweigh what's in the film. And that's not a disparagement of the film. We have about 15 seconds left. Joe, how can people get a hold of you? Is it okay if people get a hold of you?
Yeah, sure. Anybody needs help, again, go to warrenlegacy.com. You can reach out to me personally through Facebook. I don't have a YouTube channel or whatever, but I do have a Facebook. It's just Joe Franke. You can find me on Facebook and reach out to me, and we'll help you as best we can.
Absolutely. Joe, as always, thank you so very much. It's always great talking to you.
Thank you so much. I had a great time.
And talking about pizza too, right? We'll be back tomorrow with Liz Johnson of Megas Books. Everyone have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.
God bless you all. Thank you.
Hi, this is Paul Lester.